Hey, Best Life Tribe. Hey, Best Life Tribe. Come on in. Come on in. It is time for our podcast. I know you're all ready. We have an amazing guest today. So come on in. I'm going to give you all a couple of seconds. Get your little snacks and your wine or your juice or your kombucha, whatever it is you're getting. And then we're going to get right started on the show for tonight, which is an amazing show for tonight. All right. All right. I see the eyeballs coming in. Come on in, tribe. Come on in. Come on in. I got to start having some theme music before, right? A little theme music would be nice. Hey, tribe. Hey, tribe. Let me see if I see you all there. Okay. Where are you? Yes, I see you live, tribe. I see myself live. If you have questions for tonight, put it in the chat in the group, and I will try to ask our amazing guests these questions. So I want to be a woman of time. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring us out, and then I'm going to count us back in, and then we're going to be live in the podcast, on the podcast with me. So get ready to go live. Stay tuned. Make sure you stay to the end because we have, again, more prizes. And I know you'll like prizes. I mean, you're going to watch and listen to the podcast anyway, but I know you'll really just like surprises. So we've got some prizes, but you have to stay to the end. And in order to be eligible for the prizes, you have to comment. So put your comment in now. And actually, our guest is going to draw one of the prizes live. So the person who keeps commenting and is really engaged is really going to win those prizes. Okay. So I'm going to count us down and play the intro, and then we will be live in the podcast. So hold on. It's only 10 seconds. Don't go nowhere. Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Glow podcast with me, your host, Dawn Fitch. And I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, wellness cheerleader, and girl trying to live her best life. When I started to feel overwhelmed with this new normal and felt like my light was dimming, I remembered all the things I needed to do to grow my glow. So if this is sounding familiar to you, sit back and relax because we're discussing great topics and we've got inspirational guests to make sure that you laugh, grow, and get your glow. Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Grow Your Glow podcast, where you will be inspired to shine. I am your host, Dawn Fitch, and the Grow Your Glow podcast is sponsored by Puka Pure and Simple. Welcome, everyone, to episode 3. I'm feeling kind of proud today. I got 3 episodes deep here. I'm feeling like a little bit of a veteran. And I'm trying to do things better every week. Try to grow and do a little better, grow my glow. So last week, if you watched the first week, every guest is amazing. They can't do any better because they're just amazing. But I'm trying to up my game. So, I see little bells and whistles for this next episode. But last episode, I was like, yes, it was good until after. And my mom and sister were like, that was great. But what were you wearing? Really? And pretty much they was like, take that outfit and burn it. Because y'all didn't know, but that's like my house outfit. I have hot flashes. I need to have things where I could just layer off fast. So I was like, who's paying attention? But, they saw me with my hot flash outfit. So today I put a little turtleneck on, which is totally the opposite of the hot flash outfit. So hopefully I don't pass out on screen. If I do, those of you who know where I live, please send 911 to me. Okay. But I think I'm gonna be all right. So thanks, Donna. Thanks, Mom. Yeah, better outfit today. So I'm excited because this Grow Your Glow podcast, was about us just inspiring each other, which is what we try to do in the tribe. And every guest so far that I've had has been inspirational, hopefully to you, but I know to me, and they've been just a part of my life in some way. And it really has been a blessing because when I tried to find people to be in the podcast, I was like, my team, my crew is amazing. Like I have gotten to meet amazing women. So I'm glad to be able to bring them to you. So our fantastic guest tonight is Tracey Michae'l Lewis Giggets. First of all, even when I say her name, I realize I have to get some more names. Okay, Dawn Fitch is too short. I need a little more. Her name sounds powerful. Tracey Michae'l Lewis Giggets. Okay, 4 names. There you go. So Tracey is a writer and an educator, And Tracey offers those who read her work and hear her speak an authentic experience and an opportunity to explore the intersection of culture, identity, and faith, spirituality at the deepest levels. As a writer, Tracey has published 18 books, including several collaborations with numerous high-profile authors. In 2016, she was honored by She Knows Media as one of the Voices of the Year for her nuanced and personal exploration of mental health, PTSD, and self-care. Yay! In 2021, Tracey became one of 20 writers who contributed to the groundbreaking book, You Are Your Best Thing: Vulnerability, Shame, Resilience, and the Black Experience, edited by acclaimed researcher Brené Brown. Yes. And the founder of the Me Too movement, Tarana Burke. So I have been a fan, especially of the beginning of Tracey's career. I bring it back to the Gospel of Sasha Renee. So I'm excited to talk to her, and I'm excited for you to meet her. Welcome, Tracey. Yay! Oh, you're muted. Let me unmute you. Sir? That would help. Yes. There we go. Welcome, Tracey. Welcome.
Hi, Dawn.
Oh,
I'm so glad to be here.
When I read that, Tracey, I could cry because I remember you and I sitting in the park with another friend of ours, sharing a burrito because we only had money for one.
We only had one.
Talking about one day we're going to do this and that. And just to see all that you've done is like, yeah, every book, every piece that you put out is just, you're growing. So I'm going to stop talking because you know I can talk. So tell the people a little bit about you and just, you know, who you are as a writer, as a person, a little bit about Tracey.
Wow. So as you said, I am a writer. I consider myself a writer storyteller because I work in multiple genres. I am an educator. I'm a professor of English and Black Studies at Community College of Philadelphia. I am a mom, I am a wife, I am a gardener, I am a ghostwriter, I am, I wear many hats, but I think at my core, I'm a little brown girl from Louisville, Kentucky, who has a whole bunch of stories to tell and hoping that somebody out there is going to listen and read her stories.
Yes, we're listening. So what was your first book, Tracey? Was your first book wasn't
Well, actually, I came up and I know you know this, Dawn, but I came up in deaf poetry, that scene, right? So my first book, exactly. So I'm reminded of Serengeti Plains in Montclair, where I did spoken words. So I came up in that sort of era. So my first book was Collapsed on the Wings of a Sigh. It was a poetry collection in 2002. So I'm coming up on 20 years of, doing this thing professionally. And I put that in quotes. But,
take them quotes down professionally.
Well, I can take them down now, but
yes, take them down. You just have one up like professionally.
I had like one quote. Yeah. So I had two poetry collections, and then of course my first novel was The Gospel According to Sasha Renee, which was the one that I wrote on subways in New York City, and
look, and we was all on subways reading it like this. What? Where did I stop? Yes, that's when I read that book, and I had the poetry, but when I read Sasha Renee, I was like, my friend is a writer. Like my friend is a famous writer. It was so good. So we're gonna dive into your writing, and I know self-care is a big thing for you, and that's what we're talking about here in the tribe and on Grow Your Glow. So we're gonna dig into that, and we're gonna dig into what you're doing now because that's super exciting. So everybody, you are in for an amazing treat listening to Tracey and her story. But I want to talk about, and what I've asked everybody. 2020, 2021, this pandemic, this quarantine, we're in, we're out. It was just such a tumultuous time. I mean, something we've never been through. And I just try to get people's experiences. What was it like for you? Trials, tribulations, how did you cope? And we'll get into more of how you cope, but basically what was your experience with it?
Yeah. The interesting thing about this last year is that I, in 2019, before COVID, experienced a severe health crisis that basically kept me in my bed for 9 months. I took leave and I did all the things. I went to all the doctors and they couldn't figure out what was going on. And, I'm sure, that's a story, Dawn. Like, I remember talking to you about it, like, just trying to figure out why my body was not cooperating with me, and not really thinking about trauma or stress or any of those other factors, just wondering like, okay, so what's physically wrong? And in December of 2019, got some answers around the way my body held and processed trauma, and began my healing journey, changing my diet, being actively involved in like self-care, like for real. Like, yes, the massages, yes, the acupuncture, but also meditation and contemplation and being still and all of that kind of thing. And so by January, I was ready to come back to work. January 2020, I was going to be teaching. I was like, okay, I'm healing. I was walking with a cane, but I was here, I was present. And then February, I'm like, okay, I'm here. I'm struggling a little bit, but I'm doing it. And then
you was back home.
I mean, I didn't want to do it by myself.
I'm coming out. I've been in the house for a year. I'm coming out.
How about that? And so, I think what the pandemic brought up for me really was, it was both reconciling with the way that I processed my fears, because I had a lot of fear. Because I had been ill, I was like, I wasn't coming outside. We were spraying down, everybody was spraying down our groceries. And, I worked on a college campus and, the kids can be a little bit not clean. So, I had a lot of fear around that. But I was still one of those people that were like, oh, it's going to be 2 weeks. It's going to be a month, and we'll be back at work and all is well. And then a month and then another month. And so one of the things that came up for me was just, what do I do with stillness? What do I do with, having to have conversations with my husband that are not like two ships passing in the night? What does it look like to really give my child the kind of attention that she really needs, because she's always here?
She does live with you. That is your child. Are you spending the night again? Yeah, I'm staying here, Mom.
Exactly. And really kind of thinking about that and reconciling my fear, my having to be alone with my thoughts, and then all that was going on outside in the world. As things, I write a lot about race and social justice. And so as we're getting the Breonna Taylor and as we're getting the George Floyd, now I'm dealing with two things: what's going on in my heart and mind emotionally, what's going on outside that I feel like is going to affect me physically. But, God always has a ram in the bush. I know that's cliche, but that's really what it was. Like,
old school, Tracey. You sound like you're 80. A ram in the bush. But it's
ram in the bush is what he had. That's what he had. But like, I honestly had, in terms of like my mental health and as well as my career, this last year has probably been one of the most blessed years I've ever had. Right. And it's strange to me. And I feel even a way about saying it because I know so much grief. Right. Like, some of what I experienced in 2019 was the result of grief that I had not unpacked. I'd lost my cousin to murder, in 2018, a racially motivated murder. And so I had not unpacked that. Right. I had not done anything with it. So having to be still, it's almost like God said, sit down, and let's heal. Let's begin this process of healing. And so when I say I had one of, the best years that I ever had, it's only by the grace of God. Right. It really is only by the grace of God that my career took a trajectory, and the fact that Black folks are now in vogue, right? So, they took this trajectory. But then also I was equipped. I was finally able to handle that trajectory. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like, you're asking for, I want this, but are you ready for it? Are you ready for it? And that sit down that I had for, almost a year, that previous year, prepared me to be able to implement balance when all this good stuff is happening, knowing how to breathe when I feel myself stressed out because I have an opportunity coming up, all of that stuff, all the stuff you talk about in the tribe. So
Wow. But I think you touched on a really good point. There is a lot of guilt around people who actually found some peace in 2020.
yeah.
And I don't think, I think anybody who said, I know when I say it, I caveat it with, I know that people went through a lot. I had,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like we should have to say, I'm happy when somebody says that 2020 was okay for them. We all know that, we understand that it wasn't that way for everybody, and we keep people in our prayers. But if I find somebody who was able to at least get some sort of peace or rest or something, I think that's a good thing. And I don't think we should have to have guilt or fear about that. And I find myself, even when I say it, I get real like, girl,
Same.
2020 was okay. So
Same.
I mean,
Yeah.
we had rough days and things like that.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: how did you? What did you actually do to pull your mindset out of that? Like, how have you? I know you already processing. You had a lot of fear
Mhm.
because of illness and things like that. Did you? You changed your diet. You cooked. Was there anything specific? But you already said you meditated. You did things like that. You had a lot of quiet time.
Meditation has been a lifesaver for me.
Mm-hmm.
I understood prayer, right?
Yes.
Like in my traditional upbringing, that's what I was taught. Go to God, talk to God,
Yes.
but I never understood the other side of it, which was sitting still and allowing God to speak, to sit
Yeah.
in stillness. And so I began an active meditation practice that I, have into this day, which allowed me to hear. So some of what I needed to hear in order to have the trajectory that I had, I couldn't hear because my brain was too noisy, right? Or I was too busy talking and not listening. And so I think one of the key practices of 2020 for me that held me together when grief did try to take me out, when I did have those bad days, was my contemplation. I began reading a lot of what they call the desert mothers and the desert fathers, which are Christian mystics and you know contemplatives, who practiced stillness and meditation. And I have to say that, and then also learning how to breathe. I know you've
Wow.
talked a lot
Yes.
about this in the
Work.
tribe, but I realized that I essentially had been holding my breath for 45 years,
Yeah.
like
Ooh.
because of the way my trauma. I'm a survivor of sexual assault, and the way my trauma, I learned how to hold my breath, because if I did, I didn't want anybody to know what was happening to me. And it was literally a psychosomatic kind of thing that was happening. And so I'm deep breaths, what? Like that felt scary. And it's funny because when I first started practicing meditation, deep breathing would make me cry. It was a
Wow.
traumatic experience, yes, because it felt unsafe, right? It felt like my safety, like somehow if I breathed, something was gonna, even though like I was so far removed from my trauma, right? And so I those two things, meditation, deep breathing, were two key components for me staying steady when everything around me and outside was hitting me and hitting all of us, right? And being an empath, being a person that is always
Mm.
concerned about and feeling everything that everybody else is going through, it was a way for me to balance that part of me. And so I those are the biggest things.
But those are two big things. And
Yeah.
we talk a lot about breathing in the tribe. And I just found this article and this woman. And what I do is I find articles and stuff, and like my friends and family, I text them like the YouTube, like, oh my gosh, guys, watch this right away. They don't even text me back. I'm like, okay.
They're like, that's
But
just Dawn.
yeah, I'm like, yeah, Dawn, I'll get to it. The thing I hear most, this is the conversation I always have. Did you get my text? Oh yeah, I'll watch it later. Come on. But when we talk about breathing, this woman was talking about heart breathing. I don't know if you heard that, breathing into your heart, because
Yes.
it is actually scientific that when we have stress, our body releases, I think it's cortisol, which actually it breaks us down. It's not good for us. But when your heart is happy, it actually releases
Oxytocin. Yeah.
oxytocin, which actually is something that's released into your system, which helps to bring down stress. It's good for you. So when your heart is happy, that love, that flutter, that joy, it actually releases something to your system that's really good for you. So I like to
Absolutely.
practice like heart breathing, like put your hand on your heart and like breathe into your heart.
And also any kind of pain, like what I learned is the power of our breath. I mean, it is so powerful. So I've had moments where I've had like splitting headaches and I learned to breathe into that space, right? So breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? But in the process of breathing into the space wherever you're having pain, right? So if I'm having a headache, breathing into that space. And there is like, I'm very fascinated by and have been studying somatic experiences, the way that our body holds our mental and traumatic experiences. And sometimes what we experience as pain is actually trauma in the body. I had an experience, this was in December 2019, where I went to an acupuncturist. And I'm going to kind of help with my pain and all of those things. And so she's putting the needles in and I'm we're talking or whatever. And I had told her that I had like these knots, like weird like knot formed like things on my chest. I couldn't even describe it. She's like, okay, well we'll handle that. She went to go put the needle in and I wailed.
Wow.
When I tell you, I had a visceral emotional response. And it was, in hindsight, it was kind of funny because I didn't know what was happening to me, but I was crying. So I was like, I was just like looking at her, and she was just kind of like very calm and just saying, it's okay, what happens. She's like, sometimes trauma is literally trapped in your body. So you have an experience. If you wonder why your arm always hurt every time you go over to this person's house, or if you like whatever, sometimes we're holding it. And so I realized that I'd been walking around for a good portion of my life with all my muscles tight. So what they were calling fibromyalgia, I was literally. And so breathing helps me to release my muscles. It helps me to breathe into places where there's pain. I mean, it's not like a stamp cure, right?
You know what I'm saying? It helps. It's all part of a bigger picture.
To bring the anxiety down around whatever you happen to be experiencing. So yeah.
Wow. So breath work, everyone. Breath work.
Breath work.
And I shouldn't even say work because people don't like work. Just breathe. Just breathe. But you just like you said that you've been holding your breath for all these years. Sometimes I feel like I'm just like I won't even be conscious and just let out a big breath. I'm like, how long have I been holding our breath?
Yeah,
holding my breath? Like we realize that we do that during the day. So now let me ask you this too. While you were doing all this, a lot of people had said, one woman said, I felt inside out during 2020 because everything I'm in the house, everything I love to do, I thought that I would be doing was just gone. And I found peace in other things. So did writing bring you peace during that, or self-care, or did you turn to something else?
The interesting thing about writing was that, I have a fondness for the gospel according to Sasha Renee because I was writing from a very pure, I don't know what's going to happen. I just love to do this thing and I'm going to tell this story. Once writing becomes a career and it becomes a thing, I still love it, but it's different for me. It's something that people pay me to do, and it is work. And so when it comes to my writing, especially during this time period when we had, this space, I was trying to find ways to enjoy, to really find that moment of 2002, like find that, to savor what I was doing. So I did a lot of journaling, a lot of writing that didn't have to look a particular way, or I explored other genres. I just did a lot of things on the writing side, but really where I found my peace was in my garden.
Yeah, I was hoping you're going to talk about your garden because you built a greenhouse, didn't you?
Yeah, well,
or put a greenhouse up.
Yeah,
you did.
We put a greenhouse up. We had like in our old house, we had like a little square backyard or whatever. So we put this giant greenhouse. I know people walk about like, really? Like, but I loved it. We had stuff growing inside the greenhouse. We had a little flower beds all around, tomatoes and squash. And then learning about, nature taught me so much about like my life, and I learned so much about paying attention to seasons, paying
Mm-hmm.
attention to, process, right? Because when you put a seed in the ground, you just got to trust.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not a person that trusts well, I
Yeah.
hadn't been in the past. And so
Mm-hmm.
learning to just trust that, if I water this seed, it's going to grow, right?
Right.
And maybe it lives and maybe it doesn't, and
Wow.
and that uncertainty and embracing the uncertainty, because when you're so certain, then God can't tell you nothing, right?
Right. Right.
So just there was a lot of lessons that came out of gardening, and it got to the point where I realized that this is one thing the pandemic taught me was like, what do you want the rest of your life? You're 46 years old. What do you want the rest of your life to look like? Right. And so that's when my husband and I said, to him, like, I want some land by the sea. And so in the middle of a pandemic, we bought a house in 2 acres,
Amen.
15 minutes from the ocean, like, and
You bought 2 acres.
yeah, it's
Wow.
just, yeah, it's right at 2 acres. Like,
I
it was
told you
mostly,
before. I said, you 38 acres away, girl. Get that other 38 and your mule.
I'm gonna grab my 38. I
That's
just
right.
gotta find it.
Wow. And you're by the water, by the beach. And oh
Yeah,
my
which
goodness.
water has been very important. Now, water is another thing along with breathing. Going to, I mean, we were living right outside of Philadelphia, so we were still only an hour from the beach. But like going to the water and there's something about water that's just healing for me.
Yeah.
Just being I literally feel it in my body, right? I feel the shift that I told my husband. I was like, I'm a better person by the ocean. So if you want to move me by the
Happy
ocean,
wife, happy life.
right?
Okay.
And so in
That's
the middle of the
beautiful.
pandemic, like, we were able to do that. And so I think those were the things I got my garden. As soon as I got here, I was like, I got to get my garden together. The season is about to start. And so, we have our garden in the back. I'm thinking
So did you
about
have
now.
delicious salads and things from your garden? Did you eat all
Yeah,
of the
well, see, when you live in the woods, you also deal with Bambi and
deer? Oh, they ate your
Thumper
garden. Yeah.
and Gopher so they ate all my lettuce. But
Well,
I
you
did
helped the
have,
environment. They were happy.
but I did have, like, squash and tomatoes and kale, peppers, all kinds of peppers. Still got, some things back there, corn. They ate all my sweet potatoes. So
They was black deer. They was black deer.
it's like, shoot,
These are yams.
baby gonna make a
Okay.
deer. So I mean, baby gonna make a sweet potato pie. So
Exactly.
exactly.
Wow.
So
But
yeah,
that was
like,
a lot. You planted a lot. That's a lot of things.
yeah, we have a nice little
How did the kale
patch.
come out? I've wanted to grow kale.
Oh, you can get you a container. You absolutely can.
Apartment
I've been
kale.
trying to get you a container
I know.
garden.
I was like, well, apartment kale tastes good. I don't know.
No, what I do is there's a kale salad with like cranberry and balsamic vinegar that I really like. I like sauteing it and with like onions and peppers and eating it in the morning, actually, with scrambled eggs or egg substitute, whatever you want to use. With sweet potatoes in the morning. That's actually a really great breakfast,
Kale and sweet potatoes.
What's that?
Kale and sweet potatoes.
Kale, sweet potatoes, and scrambled eggs. I know it sounds crazy,
Okay.
but it's a colorful, healthy, approach to breakfast to get your greens in, especially if you're not the type that want to eat. And there's only like a limited amount of greens that I like. Like, I don't eat broccoli, so like, you get it in where you can get it in.
Let me give you the I'm not gonna say the best because that's extra, because I like Panera and they have this Fuji apple salad. I was like, I can't spend any more money there. But if you take your kale, I'm trying to live vegan life, but whether vegan mayo or mayo, honey or agave, and apple cider vinegar. And mix that up. Oh, it makes the best apple cider dressing for your kale. Yes. And it's so simple. That put your little spices in there. But the base is just the mayo, apple cider vinegar, and then your agave or your honey. It is delicious.
I love that. I'm gonna tell my husband that because he's like the chef. So
okay. Drizzle it all over the kale. Oh, wait, so you were stuck in a pandemic with a chef? Now I'm mad at you. No,
but he's a chef. But he's a chef that cooks when you feel like it. He said,
"That's okay. That's okay. You're gonna feel like it every day, right?"
He goes down.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, I feel good that you were eating good and eating your own stuff. I'm gonna try. I probably missed this season,
Get
but
them containers.
yeah, I'm gonna get the containers.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on a fall garden now. So I'm putting pumpkin, kale grows real all the way to like, November-ish, depending on what the weather is like. So it's like cold weather hardy. Collard greens grow, that. So I'm going to try to put some stuff out there just to see. I'm also testing my soil to see what it actually grow, because the dream is to take some of the land and do just a little small vineyard. I want to.
This is what you do when you get acres, Tracey. What if it's going to be a vineyard over here?
Well, it's going to be very small because it's not that many.
That's okay. A vineyard is a vineyard.
But I was like, oh, what if I bottled like 300 wines? Like the entrepreneur in me is now like, if I just bottled 300, and they're like limited edition. And once the 300 are gone, they're like gone.
We can't turn off the entrepreneur brain. It's almost horrible. Everything is a venture. What if we? Because I'm thinking like how I can get down there.
Just enjoying me, and you out here thinking about how you gonna make some money.
But that's right. We need to keep our house, honey.
Okay? That part.
Wow. Well, this is good, and we're gonna sit down and do something so I can get this container garden going. Yes. Whether it's fall, it might have to be spring, but maybe if I could do one thing for the fall. But yes. I want to dig into, because I always ask everybody, were you able to birth anything during that? And not meaning starting a job or anything like it could have been a new attitude, a new relationship, but you actually birthed something big during, look at our signs are together.
Yes.
During this time.
I love it.
Black Joy. Tracey, first of all, major publisher. I'm going to stop talking, because I want you to talk about the inspiration for Black Joy, what it's about, the journey to get here, being published like a national publisher.
Yeah. That story is so fascinating, and it's it's nothing but the grace of God. During the pandemic, right after the uprisings with George Floyd and sort of the racial unrest, there was a workshop that was offered. And what they did was they were looking for Black writers to participate. And it was this really exclusive kind of workshop where you got a chance to pitch stories and essays or whatever to major publications. And I was like, I'm home. I might as well. Now, ordinarily, I probably wouldn't do it because I wouldn't have had time to spend 2 or 3 days on Zoom listening to people talk. But I decided to do it. They invited me to be a part of it. And I had this idea because I had this experience with my daughter in the garden where it started raining and we just started dancing in the rain. And I was super conscious because then again, this is also during the election season and all of that. And I was super conscious of what our joy as Black women said to the world. And it just kind of spiraled. And I had this idea for an essay, and I got a chance to pitch it to the Washington Post. The Washington Post, she loved the idea like immediately, right? I was one of the few people where she was like, yes, please email me. And it ran literally the next week in the Washington Post. And it's like, okay, I had been publishing as a freelancer for a while. I've written for Essence and, all of these different places. So I was like, okay, this is just like a little step up. Okay. I'm leveling up. And I was not prepared for the response to the essay, both good and folks who, struggled with me talking about Black joy as a form of resistance, right? And so, I got a huge response, and at the same time, I'm a ghostwriter, so I was working with a really high-profile client, and I have
We're gonna talk about that, but or we won't talk about that. But you're a ghostwriting for a high profile. Okay, go ahead.
Well, yeah, this was actually another one.
Okay, all right.
So I was working with this client, and I have a ghostwriting agent, and she was the one that does all my negotiations and everything. And so I sent her, I just on a whim just said, hey, take a look at this piece I wrote for the Washington Post. She's like, you know what? I'm going to send this to the agent of my high profile client. And that agent happened to work for CAA, which is Creative Artists Agencies, one of the largest agencies in Hollywood. And so she loved it. And she was like, I know she works with you on her ghost stuff, but does she have an agent for her own work? And she was like, I don't think so. And everything just spiraled. And she said, you know what? Write a proposal for this as a book, maybe a collection of essays. And I wrote this proposal. I signed with CAA in July. She went out with the book to major publishing houses in August. It went to auction. I signed with imprint of Simon and Schuster with Gallery Books in October. The process was just nerve wracking, and then started writing the book. And so it is actually a collection of essays where I really look at the ways in which Black joy shows up, but also how we heal from personally and collectively through the demonstration of joy. I literally had to talk with my therapist because she asked me, what does joy feel like in your body? And I could not tell her. I could not. I knew I had to have been joyful when I had my daughter. I had to have been happy when, I walked down that aisle, but I could not access it. I didn't know what it feels like. It was a blur to me. And so I did a lot of work around identifying what joy felt like in my body so that I could access it when I needed it. On that bad day, I could go to that feeling and try to access it for healing. And so I started thinking about that, started writing about that, started, opening a vein and bleeding on the page about my own life and my own story. And from that were 36 essays that I think really talk about how, people kind of get a little unnerved when they hear Black joy. It was like, oh, it's just joy. Why you got to put Black on it? Well, the thing is that our joy is particular because it lives within a particular experience, that our joy is in spite of, right? The historical, situation that we often find ourselves in. So it is a form of resistance. It is a form of resilience. I feel like Black folks are like the bounce back folks of the world, right? But then it's also a form of restoration. It is a way, it's a process in which we heal. And so when grandmama's at church and she's rocking back and forth at church, she doesn't call that somatic or bilateral stimulation, which is what it's called, where we are actually doing something like what's happening in the womb, where we're rocking ourselves to soothe our anxiety. She just knows that when she rocks, she feels better. Right. And so I do, there's an essay called, Black people invented time travel, where we talk about like the way that we tell stories. There's a piece called E40 Taught Me, about my experience with E40 and Mary J. Blige and how that music helped to heal me during a time period when I couldn't find my voice and I couldn't speak about what was happening to me. It was probably the largest, biggest unraveling of my life writing this book, to the point where I had to send it to people and give them a heads up.
Yeah, it's powerful. Like, be prepared for this. Wow.
Yeah,
So what kind of response did you get? You said you got good and maybe not so positive.
Well, that was for the essay. So that was the Washington Post essay.
Oh,
the book comes out February 1st, 2022. So it's not out yet.
Wait a minute. So I have
you have an advance copy, ma'am.
And two people here are going to have an advance
copy?
Two
people are here are going to get an advance copy. It actually comes out officially February 1st, 2022.
So let me ask you this. When it says restoration, how does Black joy give us restoration? Is that a right question? I don't even know if that's a...
Yeah. What I explored in those essays were those moments when I felt diminished or felt sad or had anxiety, when I was able to tap into the feeling of joy in order to keep going, right? So I think restoration is very much tied to resilience, right? It's really tied to the ways that we decide to keep living, the ways in which Black folks, despite what people have said or done, have chosen to keep living, to keep excelling, and to use our joy to create some of the best art that we've ever seen. Every major musical genre that America has ever seen, from jazz to rock and roll to hip hop, it's all coming from that Black experience, from the experience of the post and enslavement, to the taking our joy and putting it into something so that we can become, maintain our humanity when everything else is telling us that we're not human.
Wow.
Right. And then also to heal the pain that comes with that experience. And so I think, restoration in this case is about what happens individually. So you, Dawn, choosing joy when everything else says not to, right? And me choosing to, the one essay I really love is it's called This Is Me. And the way that I figured out what joy feels like in my body is by watching the television show This Is Us.
Oh, okay.
And the crazy part of that is like, what I realized was I love good storytelling. Right. I love storytelling that moves. And so my husband used to know when I was watching This Is Us, because he would walk into the room and I'd be like this in front of the screen. And I had this feeling of such and I never thought about it that way. But then one time it was right after a therapy session and I was watching an episode and I was like, wait a minute. This is what it feels like. This is joy.
Wait a minute, Tracey, because actually, I don't know what card would be revoked for this. I don't watch This Is Us. I've never. I know. And as a writer, what is it that people are so? What are you getting out of this show? I mean, it's just a variety of people and their experiences. Just.
I think it's the intersections. I think what we're drawn to is, when we see human beings that are maybe not that much different than us, and the way that their lives intersect with other human beings, there's something that I think is very, that draws us, right? So you have, this man who decides to take this Black baby in, and then the backstory, and then the backstory of that, and then the backstory, and then we're fast forward. I think people are very drawn to the way every single character in that show is humanized. It's like we can see ourselves in every single entity. But it's not for everybody. Right. But what I want people to do, like when you talk about restoration and Black joy, is figure out the next time you feel extremely happy, right? And the happy is not a term I like to use, but when you feel extreme joy, stop. What is going on in your body in that moment? Do you feel like your heart is just tingling? Do you feel this weird feeling in your arm? Do you feel that's, pay attention, because guess what? That moment when somebody has ticked you off at the job, or that moment when you're feeling really sad because you missed so-and-so, try to call up that memory of joy. Try to call up the memory of, the way it felt in that body, right? Wow. And I think what you'll see is that we have so much power. There's so much power that God has given us to be able to access parts of ourselves when we need it, right? So when we talk about restoration and healing, when we talk about liberation, we're talking about freedom. Yes, it's about going out and marching. Yes, it's about changing policies. Yes, it's also about what we do at home to make sure that what's going on outside doesn't infiltrate us to the point where we're so broken that, we can't go out and do the work, right, that we really need to do. So it doesn't have to be This Is Us. It might be, in your garden. It might be something where you just get that tingle, oh, this feels good.
But there's always a feeling attached to joy. There's always a feeling. You're right. And we don't
access in your body.
That. It's in your body. It's physical.
Every emotion, though. Every emotion is in your body. So when you get angry, you know what that feels like. Yeah. When you're sad, you know that your cheeks and you know what that feels like. But for some reason, we disconnect. And some of that for Black folks has been because, our joy was dangerous, for a good part of and it's in our DNA. So there's a thing called transgenerational trauma where we carry the idea that it's not safe, or our kids are laughing too much at the park, but we're in a particular neighborhood and we're like, y'all keep it down, because they're not allowed to have the natural wonder and joy that a child has, right? Because we're so afraid of the gaze, right? Like Toni Morrison talks about the white gaze, that thing over your shoulder, even if it's not actually there, but you're always conscious of it, right?
Wow.
And so just being, part of liberation and freedom is like, I'm going to feel that joy the same way I feel my sadness and my anger and all of these other emotions. And I'm going to allow it. It always, there's such a mind body connection. I mean, this is the basis of your work, right? There's such a mind body connection, right? And if we can feel it, then we can help
Access it.
Use it. Yeah.
I was going to say, what advice can you give? But girl, bye. I mean, what advice didn't you give? I mean, just like you said, remember that feeling of joy in your body and be able to access that is powerful. Yeah. So I hope that I know we're giving away some books and we're running on down on our time. And I can really talk to you for hours, Tracey. I was like, what next? I know. So I know you're giving away 2. And I was going to say I want to keep one for myself. So I'm glad this had arrived in the mail for me. So I don't have to swipe the 2 from the tribe. But this has been an amazing conversation. You have enlightened us as always. It's just, you are a joy to talk to. Let people know what you need, what they need to do for you. Should they get in touch with you? Should they follow you? Is there a mailing list?
Yes.
Whatever it is, let me know.
So as far as following the whole social media thing, you can follow me at TMLG Writer on Instagram. I also have another page called Healed and Made Well, which is a page where I really focus on like my healing journey. So you can follow me there. My website is TraceyMLewis.com. So you can visit me there. In terms of like what I would like is that, of course, we're giving the 2 free books. The book is available for pre-order wherever books are sold. So if you have a favorite independent bookstore, if you can go in, and it really it's very helpful.
Ask for it.
Yeah, so to ask for it and to pre-order it through your bookstore, or you can pre-order through Amazon or wherever you get your books. Pre-orders are really, great. So
you're a national author, so you can pre-order it anywhere, everyone.
You can. I hadn't always been able to say that, but
That's right. That's right. Look, I'm still going to tap you to do moving through open doors part 2, which is part 2 of my book.
Let's go.
I don't know. You're too big now, Tracey. I don't know. I'm sorry.
So, there's that. You Are Your Best Thing still. Like, that was a powerful opportunity to be part of those 20 authors talking about vulnerability and trauma, edited by Brene Brown and Tarana Burke. So that book is available for sale. And really,
books on your website? Can they get some of your older books on your website? Or
they can go to in newseasonbooks.com or sbooksmedia.com. Okay. And order any of my old stuff. So any of like my novels or anything like that, you can definitely go. You can actually access it through my main website. So just go to TraceyMLewis.com and you can access everything from there. My podcast, Heart Talk with Tracey Michae'l. Yes, you can. Dawn has been a guest on the podcast.
Get my episode, y'all. Get my episode. Wow. Yes. There's so many ways to reach you.
Yes.
But that's what we have to do. We have to support each other. I'm sure people, I'm getting comments and things up here. I know Latoya Ferguson, she wants to know if she's going to be invited to the vineyard. So I was like, I don't know, Latoya, I'll try. Maybe she said, is it gonna be a tribe trip to the vineyard? So you better get that popping. I'm like, there's 6 grapes, everybody. Take turns.
Right. That's about how many plants I'm going to have.
Take turns, okay? Don't stop on the vineyard. We're just growing it. Mm-hmm. But this has been great. Now I'm gonna do, because this is what I'll do now, because I've upped my game a little. When we come back, I'm gonna do a little commercial break. When we come back, Tracey is going to give away one of her books. It has to be somebody who's left a comment. I see eyeballs everywhere. So leave a comment in the tribe or wherever you are. And we're going to scroll through. I don't know how we're going to do this together, Tracey. And we're going to pick a winner of one of the books. And then the second book, we'll pick a winner maybe tomorrow when we see that there are more people commenting. So if you want to win Tracey's book, Black Joy, make sure you put a comment in there. We're going to roll to commercial. And then when we come back, we're going to play Would You Rather. And I have to say one thing. I don't know if you've heard of, I have to say this for my niece, because she was like, tell her about this, Aunt Dawn. I listened to this. Have you heard of Pastor Mike? I don't even know what his last name is. And he has a sermon called
Mike Todd.
Peace Under Pressure.
I don't think I've heard this sermon, but I do know the pastor for sure.
Oh, please, everyone, listen to this sermon. I'm going to put this in the in the sermon notes. Like, I'm a pastor. I'm gonna put these I'm a pastor. I'm gonna put these in the tribe notes. I mean, along with everything Tracey is saying today, it's just gonna couple your experience of tonight. I'm gonna give it to you to look up also, Tracey. It's a powerful sermon. It really changed my life this week. Wow. But that's gonna be a whole nother story. So let's roll the commercial, because that's what I do, and then we'll choose our winner, and then we're gonna play Would You Rather. Tracey. All right. But what makes Puka shea butter? How do you keep your skin really happy? How do you keep it nourished and moisturized? Puka body oils. It's not just your everyday body oil, okay? You can use this as a moisturizer. You can put this in the tub for a moisturizing bath, or you can use this as a massage oil. But what I really love about our oils are the wonderful things that are in it. We've got evening primrose for really extremely dry skin. We've got vitamin E, and we've got that ginger and turmeric essential oil in here for inflammation inside and out. So if you're really looking for something that's gonna really how do you keep your skin really happy? How do you keep it nourished and moisturized? Puka body oils. It's not just your everyday body oil, okay? You can use this as a moisturizer. You can put this in the tub for a moisturizing bath, or you can use this as a massage oil. But what I really love about our oils are the wonderful things that are in it. We've got evening primrose for really extremely dry skin. We've got vitamin E, and we've got that ginger and turmeric essential oil in here for inflammation inside and out. So if you're really looking for something that's gonna really naturally help your skin just evolve into new, amazing skin, you're gonna wanna try our Puka body oil. Okay, my commercial work needs a little work.
I love it. I love that commercial. Like, oh, you know, I've been a fan from Puka from,
like I said, since we were sitting in the park talking about, I'm gonna start a business. You're like, I'm gonna write a book. Like, can I have half of the burrito? Because we're hungry. Yep. All right.
Frankincense and myrrh is my joint. It is always gonna be.
That's right. That's right. You are, look, I know when it's Christmas, I see Tracey, I'm like, oh, it's frankincense.
I gotta stock up.
No, that's right. So I am looking through these comments here, and there is just, hi, Melinda. There is just one person who has been getting their comment on. Latoya, you know you are getting a copy of Black Joy. Yay! And for everyone else, if you're watching on the replay or you're watching later, just make comments and to comment on Tracey, follow her and things like that. And then we'll give away the second copy tomorrow. So this has been such a true joy to see you. I'm going to do a quick would you rather with you. I feel silly now because you were giving us such deep, earthy content. I'm like, hey, would you rather? You're like,
no, I love it. Come on.
All right. Would you rather have one wish granted today or have 3 wishes granted at the end of the year? And you can't wish for more wishes. So you get one right now, or you gotta wait.
I was gonna say that too.
No, you can't wish for more wishes. Or one a year from now, you get 3 wishes. Or do you want one right now? I don't know if I can wait.
So here's the thing. There's 2 things going on. Like, God's working with me on patience. So like my part of me is like, let's take the 3 at a year later, but then God said that tomorrow's not promised. So I'm like, I probably need to take that 1 today, right?
I think
I'm probably gonna take the 1 today because it's just in my nature. Like,
I can't wait.
Yeah,
I can't wait. And we can make a really good one today, so I won't be thinking about what
How about that? Yeah,
I'll take it now. You're right. Tomorrow may not be promised, and I'm gonna live in the moment. So yeah. So you and I are both taking. Actually, if we both take a wish, we could wish for different things, and then we can share.
And then we can share it. Community building. That's what that is.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Oh man, Tracey, this was amazing. Thank you so much. I know everybody was blessed. There's so many comments and hearts and things like that. But just thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just filling this world, and at least our friend circle and everybody else with just so much positivity. Wonderful writing. I am just honored to know you. Just like I said, from sitting on that park bench to, being a national author. And even when you were just doing your poetry, like we were still in awe. You're just gifted. You have such a talent, and we're just happy and thankful that you bless us with it. So
Thank you, Dawn. I love you so much. I love all that you're doing and have done, and I'm just so grateful to you. And just know that you the one. You got my heart.
We don't have to share burritos anymore. We can have our
We
own.
don't, and
We
you don't have to
don't.
send me. You don't have to send me to LA with $50 in my
Oh
pocket.
my God, I
And
forgot about
she saw me packing ramen noodles because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna eat when I get out there. She was like,
that.
listen, here's what you're not gonna do.
Right, you're not gonna eat noodles, okay? Look, Tracy, here's $50. Get yourself a little piece of chicken with your noodles. Not like I gave you $1,000. Here's $50, okay?
Right. Shoot. It lasted,
It
honey.
lasted. It lasted. All right, Tracy, we will be following. We'll see you in the tribe,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully, I will see you in person soon.
Yes.
So, thank you,
Take
and
care.
everybody else. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Join us next week in the tribe, 8:00, for another episode of Grow Your Glow. Good night, all.
Night.
Bye.